Hello everyone, and welcome to my kitchen. Today at Witch Hollow Homesteading, I'm going to be making sourdough discard granola. This is a great way to use up some of that sourdough discard. It's a very simple recipe, so it doesn't take much to throw it together, and it's packed with nutrients. A lot of times the granola that you buy in the store is just filled with sugar. It's mostly sugar and oil. So when you make your own granola, you can put in it what you want to put in it, and you can control the amount of sugar in your granola. I really try to avoid white sugar, so I try to do other sweetening alternatives, and for this recipe, I am using local honey. First thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to take a moment here to show you Ezra, my sourdough starter. Now currently she is still very active and bubbly. For this recipe, your starter doesn't have to be active and bubbly. That's why it's a sourdough discard recipe. So either way works. I'm beginning by adding 300 grams of rolled oats, 75 grams of pumpkin seeds. Here I'm just giving you a quick look behind the camera, as I do have two cameras operating at this time. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I did forget to show you here, I also added 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan salt. Nutmeg. And here I'm freshly grinding my nutmeg. You don't have to if you have already ground powdered, that's perfectly fine to use. I'm adding 35 grams of chia seeds. Add 30 grams of butter to a glass dish and microwave it for 30 seconds just so it becomes a liquid. You can use any kind of butter you'd like here. I'm using Violife vegan butter, unsalted. Here I'm measuring out 50 grams of walnuts, and what I'm going to do is measure them and then put them on my cutting board and chop them up. I've mixed up all my dry ingredients for my granola. Now I'm going to start adding my liquid. I'm going to begin by adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla paste, adding the 30 grams of melted butter, 150 grams of sourdough discard, and finally 60 grams of local honey. I'm going to thoroughly mix all of my ingredients together so that all the oats and pumpkin seeds are wet. And then pour it on to a lined baking sheet. I'm going to make sure to spread it out as evenly as I can so that it'll bake evenly. Then take your tray and place it in the oven for 10 minutes. While I'm waiting 10 minutes for the granola, I'm actually feeding my starter since I used most of it up and getting it prepped and ready to put it in the refrigerator since I'm not going to need it for about another 5 days. And what I did here is I fed about 20 grams of starter, and I fed it with 50 grams of flour and 48 grams of water. Mixed it up, and now I'm going to put it in my refrigerator. And unless I'm using my starter every single day, baking something different, this is how I actually keep my starter most of the time. I use it for what I need, and then I feed it and put it in the refrigerator. Then when I need it, I take it out, feed it, and let it sit till it comes up to room temperature. It has been 10 minutes, so I'm going to take the granola out, and I'm just going to get a spatula and flip it around a little bit. 1, it breaks up the chunks that are stuck together, and 2, it'll allow the other side of the granola to get nice and brown. As the granola is back in the oven for another 10 minutes, I thought I would just give you an idea of what else I'm doing in the kitchen today. I wanted to make some croutons for salads tonight. So I'm actually cutting up my leftover artisan bread from a previous loaf I had baked, and I'm going to cube it up into croutons, and I thought I would show you how I make our croutons. I'm going to begin by adding some apple cider vinegar, and the reason I do that is because one, it makes the croutons a little bit crispier, and it adds an additional tangy taste to the croutons. Then I'm going to add some nutritional yeast, which is one of our favorite things. Adding in a little bit of pink Himalayan salt, and then I'm going to add some organic olive oil. This is all I'm going to put in this batch of croutons. However, I really do enjoy adding some fresh dried herbs from the garden, but today I'm just keeping it basic. I'm going to mix them around, and then I'm going to add them to a lined baking tray, and I'll put these in the oven right after I'm done with the granola, and they will bake at 350 degrees for anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes. It just depends on the crunch level. For us, we like them super crunchy, so I'll bake them for usually about 20 minutes. It looks like the granola is all done. As you can see here, it's a nice golden brown color. I'm going to let it thoroughly cool sitting on the tray for about an hour to an hour and a half, just because I don't want any steam to collect in the canister I'm going to store it in. And that's it. You have simple, homemade, healthy sourdough discard granola. Now that the granola is done, I'm going to stick the croutons in at 350 degrees and bake them for 15 to 20 minutes. It's been 15 minutes and the croutons are all done. Thank you so much for joining me today at Witch Hollow Homesteading. I hope you found this video helpful and inspiring.